Do you have your grandkids this morning? Maybe, mom and dad had to drop them off. That happens a lot these days with the, grandparents doing the watching, sometimes even the raising there of the kids. What about when everything's cool and, no, you are totally in charge of the kids, but grandma and grandpa still want to kind of stick their nose in the business? That could be a little tough, and it does happen. I mean, we want there is nothing like a grandchild, and I didn't really understand it till my son gave me one. So let's talk today in our What's Up Doc segment with our good friend Dr. John Braccio in East Lansing. Hey, Doc, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing very good today. No complaints at all, I might add. And our topic today, I think, is a very relevant one, Mike. Loving and effective grandparents, okay? And the main thing is that they have to respect parental rights. That's kind of a issue we're kind of looking at. And I agree with you. There are few things more joyful in life than really spending time to love on our grandchildren. We want to pamper them, hug them, spoil them, just, whenever we're with them. And it's really cool. It's really wonderful. With that said, there's a however. A problem's going to occur when grandparents interfere with the parenting of their children. And this actually happens a lot, okay? And problems can be even worse when interfering with the parenting of the son or daughter-in-law, okay? Now, there's maybe even a little emphasis there, like, if you want to have issues, they're bad enough when they're with your own children, but when you start having them with the daughter-in-law, son-in-law, it can even get worse because they can really close you out. So it's really important that you respect the rights of both parents, okay, your own child and the partner, okay, and the person. So it's really critical that that parents really, they respect the way the parents want to raise them. It can be very different than you did it as a parent. And as grandparents made heirs, we made heirs, of course, it can happen. So are the children. So as grandparents learn to parent, even though making many mistakes, the children are going to learn too. And it always amazes me how when this occurs, you really get these critical grandparents that saying, well, I just can't believe this and all that. And of course, they're talking to me, so they're having issues, with their relationship. So, giving advice is just not recommended unless asked for, or there's really a danger for the child. I mean, there's just some parents, maybe it's just the personality, they just can't resist saying, I do this, I do that. So I can attest really from what I've seen over the years, it's not just as a psychologist, but really just walking the road of life, that many grandparents have little or no contact with their grandchildren. And this is really painful. And it's happened because they try to replace their children as parents and are seen as intrusive and interfering. I'm involved in situations and have over the years where there are even restraining orders where it can get that bad. It can get that far in terms of the grandparents just really meddling and getting involved. And I just want to throw a few statements out that you don't want to say, okay? These would be clearly toxic, okay? Like coming out when you're with your children and when they're watching their parenting and saying, you did that wrong, or I would have handled that very differently. Let me resolve this problem. You will never be a good parent.
That's harsh.
Better parent. I raised you to be a better parent than you are. You do not understand your own children. You are not treating them right, and you will deserve their hatred when they grow up. Some even get that violent or not violent, that angry. Yeah, and I don't mean to interfere, but okay. So these are kind of the toxic statements, and I hear this at the other end too, where the children will be saying to me, I just don't know how to deal with my meddling parents. And hopefully they're not talking about people going into Illinois like you, Mike. Of course not. I'm just saying that, the thing is you just have to try to keep the lines of communication open. And obviously there are more involved situations, obviously, where the grandparents are looking after the children. They spend a day or two a week even looking after them or even live together. Those those are things we're not talking about. But even there, you can have conflicts. But it's really, as an effective grandparent, a loving one, you really want to let the kids raise the kids, and you want to enjoy them, you want to love them, you want to respect within reason the boundaries, that the children have set up. But just a lot of grandparents just have trouble with that. So we just want to be team players. We want to add to the overall relationship, and we just want to have these kids to love them and enjoy them. And like you say, when your son had one, you really realize there's just a wonderful relationship, realizing this connection, not only your own child, but now there's another connection that you can love and care, and it's really cool.
I will say it's a little easier for me being a distance away. We have contact maybe once a month, either through the internet, or we'll go there or they'll come here.
Sure.
But just for a weekend, and stuff. And my grandson Knox, great kid. Of course, every grandparent says that, but. There are times, but there are times, Doc, when, my son will, and his wife, they plan something or they do something with Knox, and I'm like, oh man, I would have, how do you say anything? Or how do you say it better?
Well, a lot of it depends on the relationship with the children, of course. Some children get, they get pretty touchy, if you start telling them how to raise kids or how to do things. I think there are times you just bite your lip. If it comes up in a conversation, you can do it, because you will find that you can develop some animosity, because, you get the helicopter parent, and there you are rolling in with your own helicopter. It can lead to a crash with no living prisoners. Okay, so I think the main thing is you just want to be open. You want to look at how the kids are raising them within reason. I always tell my daughter and my son, if we have the kids, we will follow limits, but they might have a little later bedtime or something like that.
Yeah, they may have a little sweet tooth time they leave Pop-Pop's place.
That's right. So we don't have conflicts in that, but do try to recognize that each home is different. And as long as you're really not, if you've got a dangerous situation or a really toxic situation going on for the kids, or you just don't want to wade in and cause issues, because you will lose out. There's no way that if you want to be loving and having a good relationship with the grandkids, you just have to get along with your own children and with the in-law children, if you will, and just learn to just go for the ride, just enjoy it, and don't be always saying, well, this is how I did it. Now, if you're asked, your daughter or your son or your in-law, they say, look at dad or mom, what do you do in this case? My kid's really shy or having issues. He's not reading well, and we're not quite sure what to do, or he doesn't seem to be sharing his feelings, and we really just don't quite know what to do. We don't really want to intrude or whatever. These are the good type conversations that you want to be having, that you're asked questions and you give advice. But if you start coming in, well, I've been noting here that, Chucky here, he's not communicating well. I think you folks are really better. Change your style of parenting. That can go over like a big rock tied to your leg in Lake St. Clair, as they say in the Detroit Mafia. So you just don't want to end up in those type of relationships. And there are very touchy relationships, and times you're not even allowed to be with them alone. Let alone, we see them all the time as much as we can. But there are situations where that really doesn't happen, and that can really be painful. If you're a grandparent, you really want to see the kids. And then even worse, if you develop this bad relationship with your children over the grandchildren, all of a sudden you're losing out always, because you're not communicating well with your own children. Then you have the grandchildren where you have the issues too, so you may not even have much of a relationship with them. So it's time for yourself to call a timeout, kind of sit back, and kind of analyze, whoa, Nellie, what's going on here? What am I doing wrong? How can we work this out? And just not be a meddler, not be looking for the flaw. There are people that just like to organize and control things. And they may have even done it fairly effectively with their own children, and their own children just have had enough. They don't want this. They don't want this meddling and this being too involved. So if you want to have that loving, wonderful, great relationship, and even if they live a distance away, like you can see them for a weekend, you can Zoom, you can communicate any way you can, but you don't want to be coming out with those, well, you're not doing it wrong, or I wouldn't do it that way. You'd better learn how to be a parent. I taught you how to do things better. Those are really toxic. And you want to be that loving, caring grandparent. They love to see you love to see them. And that really only happens if you have that good relationship with your own children that are raising their own children.
Dr. John Braccio. And our What's Up, Doc segment here for Tuesdays. Being a grandparent. I love it. All right, Doc. Hey, have a marvelous week, and we'll chat with you next week right after Memorial Day. How about that, huh?
Listen, I look forward to talking to you, Mike. Listen, have a good week, okay, buddy? And
you too, pal. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 1320 WILS. Back in a minute.